The ring box is already open when the room stops breathing. Not metaphorically, literally. Forks hover midair. A glass trembles against crystal. Even the violinist's bow stalls, suspended above the string as if the note itself is afraid to land. Armand Fowler kneels beside the table, spine straight, wrist steady, black velvet box angled perfectly upward. The diamond catches candlelight and fractures it into white fire. He planned that part. He planned all of it. Across from him, Celeste freezes. Her red dress pulls tight as she inhales too fast, one hand flying to her mouth. Her eyes shine, wide and wet, reflecting the ring, the candles, the faces turning toward them. She laughs once, small, breathless, disbelieving, and shakes her head like this is a trick she hasn't figured out yet. Around them, the restaurant leans closer. It's one of those places where wealth whispers instead of shouts. Dark wood. Low ceilings. Chandeliers dim to a conspiratorial glow. The air smells like truffle oil and warm bread and old money. Every table is occupied, but somehow the room feels curated around them, as if the night itself has been arranged for this exact moment. Armand feels it, that familiar, intoxicating sensation of control. This is what winning looks like. He meets Celeste's eyes and smiles, slow and sure. His pulse stays even. He has closed billion-dollar deals with less preparation than the sentence. Celeste, he begins. And then the sound comes. Soft. Wrong. Fabric brushing fabric. Footsteps that don't belong to the rhythm of servers and guests. A hush ripples from the entrance like a dropped plate no one hears but everyone feels. Armand's smile holds. His eyes don't. They slide, almost against his will, past Celeste's shoulder toward the doorway. And his breath disappears. She stands just inside the restaurant, one step beyond the threshold, as if unsure whether to enter or turn back. A denim jacket hangs open over a simple top. Her hair is darker than he remembers, pulled back loosely, curls escaping around her face. She looks thinner. Stronger. Grounded in a way that makes his chest tighten before his mind can catch up. Leonie. Strapped against her chest is a soft, floral wrap. Inside it, two small shapes. Two identical blue knit caps. Two tiny faces, cheeks round and flushed with sleep. One baby's mouth opens in a silent yawn. The other's fingers flex, curling into the fabric like it's the only solid thing in the world. Twins. The room doesn't gasp. It doesn't need to. Armand's vision tunnels. The clink of silverware dulls. The chandeliers blur into smeared gold. His grip tightens on the ring box so hard the hinge bites into his thumb. Time stretches thin. He counts without meaning to. The length of their bodies. The size of their hands. The way one leans into the other, instinctive, practiced. Too practiced. His mind scrambles for numbers. For calendars. For flights and months and gaps he told himself didn't matter. The math lines up. Perfectly. Celeste follows his gaze. Her smile falters, not breaks, just pauses, like a song losing its tempo. She turns slowly, red fabric whispering against the chair, and sees what everyone else has already clocked. The woman. The babies. The impossible geometry of the moment. Celeste looks back at Armand. Her eyes search his face, sharp and intimate, cataloging every micro-expression she's learned to read over 2 years of loving him. What is this? She asks quietly. Armand doesn't answer. Because Leonie looks up. Their eyes meet across the room. Recognition hits her first, quick, controlled. Her shoulders stiffen. Her lips part, then press together, as if she's already deciding what she will and won't say. She adjusts the wrap with practiced hands, one palm flattening protectively over a tiny back. The baby on the left stirs. Armand's knees threaten to give. Those eyes. He knows those eyes. The hostess murmurs something, voice low, apologetic. Leonie nods once, distracted, and takes a step farther into the room. Phones rise. Not all at once. Not rudely. But they rise. This is the part people will replay. If you're watching this unfold, ask yourself something: would you stay silent, or would you demand the truth? Celeste stands. Her chair scrapes softly against the floor. She doesn't look away from Leonie as she speaks again, voice steady but thinner now. You know him, she says. It isn't a question. Leonie glances at Celeste for the first time. Really looks at her. The red dress. The ring box. The kneeling man who is no longer kneeling. Yes, Leonie says. Her voice is calm. Too calm. I do. Armand finally finds his voice, but it comes out fractured. Leonie, what? She lifts a hand, gentle but firm. A boundary, not a plea. Not here, she says. Celeste lets out a short, disbelieving laugh. It cracks through the quiet like glass underfoot. Oh, I think here is exactly where this belongs. She gestures to the ring, still open, still burning between them. Because unless I'm losing my mind, Celeste continues, your past just walked in carrying a future you forgot to mention. The baby on the right makes a soft sound, a sigh that pulls Leonie's attention down. She rocks slightly, instinctive, murmuring under her breath. The movement is intimate. Unrehearsed. Real. Armand swallows. How old are they? He asks. Leonie hesitates. Just a beat. Just long enough. Celeste sees it. Don't, Celeste says, raising a hand. Please don't answer that. She looks at the twins again, eyes bright with unshed tears. They're beautiful, she adds. Then, quieter, congratulations. She picks up her clutch. She doesn't look at Armand when she steps past him. She doesn't touch him. She doesn't need to. The violinist lowers his bow. Silence swells. Leonie shifts her weight, preparing to leave. She meets Armand's eyes one last time. We'll talk, she says. But not like this. She turns toward the door. Armand watches her go, the ring box still open in his hand, the answer pounding in his ears. The twins' ages line up. Too perfectly. And as Leonie pauses at the threshold, as if sensing him watching, she turns back. Their eyes lock again. The proposal hangs unfinished. And everything he thought was solid fractures in a single, breathless second. Stay with us. If you'd walk away now, say why in the comments. The silence doesn't fall. It spreads. It crawls across the tables, over half-finished plates and sweating wineglasses, along the polished wood and velvet chairs, until the room is sealed in it. No one speaks. No one laughs. The violinist lowers the instrument completely, bow resting against his thigh like an apology. Armand Fowler stands there with the ring box still open. The diamond no longer looks triumphant. It looks exposed. A phone lifts at the far table. Then another. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just inevitable. Screens glow softly, framing him from angles he didn't consent to. Somewhere behind him, a server freezes mid-step, tray balanced, eyes flicking between faces like she's trying to memorize what history looks like before it moves on. Celeste doesn't look at the phones. She looks at everything else. She notices the way Armand's hand trembles, barely. The faint crescent of blood where the hinge bit into his thumb. The way Leonie's weight shifts protectively from one foot to the other, her body angling, subtly, instinctively, so the twins are farther from the crowd. She notices the baby's socks don't match. One light blue. One faded gray. A detail no one else clocks. A detail that tells her more than words could. Celeste breathes in through her nose, slow. She has always been good at reading rooms. It's one of the reasons Armand fell for her. She understands power. She understands when to speak and when silence is louder. Leonie takes a step closer to the table. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. Her presence presses in like gravity. The floral wrap creaks softly as she adjusts it. One of the twins stirs, cheek rubbing against fabric, mouth searching. Leonie lowers her head just enough to soothe him, murmuring something too quiet to hear. It is devastatingly ordinary. Armand tries to speak again. His mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Celeste turns to Leonie before he can recover. How long? She asks. Leonie looks up, startled, not by the question, but by the calm with which it's asked. She hesitates. Just a fraction. I'm not here to do this, Leonie says carefully. Celeste nods. I know. She gestures, small and elegant, to the ring box. But this was happening, she adds. So now it is. Armand finally closes the box. The click sounds too loud. Final. Celeste flinches, not at the sound, but at what it confirms. Phones rise higher. Someone whispers his name. Another voice murmurs, is that? Leonie's jaw tightens. She takes a step back, creating space. Distance. A line. We should go, she says, not to Armand, not to Celeste, but to the babies. Her voice softens when she speaks to them. Okay, loves. We're leaving. The word leaving hits harder than anything else tonight. Celeste turns to Armand then. Finally. Her eyes are bright, not with hysteria, but with understanding. The kind that hurts more. You didn't plan this, she says. But you didn't stop it either. Armand reaches for her without thinking. She steps back before his hand can make contact. Don't, she says gently. Not yet. She looks past him, at the room, at the strangers who will narrate this moment however they please. Then back to him. There are things you don't forget to mention by accident, Celeste continues. And there are silences that are louder than lies. Her voice drops. Just for him. Which one was this? Armand shakes his head, panicked. Celeste, I swear, I didn't know. I believe you, she says. That's the worst part. She picks up her clutch. Straightens the line of her dress. She does not rush. She does not cry. She walks with the kind of control that tells everyone watching that she is not breaking in front of them. As she passes Leonie, their eyes meet. Celeste pauses. For what it's worth, she says quietly, you didn't come here to hurt anyone. Leonie blinks, surprised. Then nods once. No, she agrees. I didn't. Celeste turns and walks toward the exit. The room parts for her. Armand makes to follow, but someone bumps his shoulder. A waiter, apologizing too quickly. A chair leg catches his foot. The moment stretches just long enough. By the time he looks up, Celeste is gone. The door swings shut behind her with a soft, definitive click. Armand turns back. Leonie is already moving away from the table, the twins snug against her chest. She doesn't look back this time. She threads through the room with quiet efficiency, ignoring the stares, the phones, the half-raised questions hovering on every tongue. The hostess opens the door for her without being asked. Cold night air spills in. Then Leonie is gone too. Armand stands alone. The ring box feels heavier now, like it's filled with something other than air. Around him, the restaurant exhales. Conversations start up again, too loud, too fast, compensating. A laugh breaks out near the bar, brittle and forced. No one looks at him anymore. That's worse than being watched. He lowers himself into the chair Celeste left behind. The imprint of her warmth is still there. The candle flickers. Wax drips down the side and hardens. Armand stares at the empty space across from him. 2 exits. 2 lives. 1 moment. If you were in his place, would you chase the truth or protect what's left? Answer honestly in the comments. Outside, somewhere beyond the heavy doors, Leonie disappears into the night with answers he doesn't have. Inside, Armand Valeur sits with a ring that no longer belongs to anyone. And the realization settles, slow and merciless. His life didn't just change. It split. Armand is arguing with her while pulling a jacket over one arm. Not yelling. Not even angry. That's what makes it worse. Leonie stands in the doorway of the apartment kitchen, barefoot on cold tile, watching him juggle his phone, his keys, his watch. Morning light spills in through the window behind her, catching dust in the air. The kettle on the stove clicks as it cools, a sound that feels like a countdown. You're not listening, she says. I am, Armand replies, already halfway turned toward the door. This exact angle of his body, is where it always starts. He remembers it now with brutal clarity, standing alone in a restaurant hours later, the memory snapping shut around him like a trap. Back then, this kitchen felt temporary. Everything did. Boxes still half unpacked. Furniture chosen for function, not warmth. His life existed in motion, airports, meetings, hotel rooms with the same art and the same silence. Leonie hated that silence. At the beginning, it didn't matter. They met at a panel discussion neither of them wanted to attend. She challenged a speaker mid-sentence, sharp and precise, dismantling an argument with 3 questions and a smile that dared anyone to argue back. Armand noticed her immediately, not because she was loud, but because she was unafraid. They talked for hours afterward. Not small talk. Not posturing. Ideas. Books. Contradictions. She pushed back when he spoke in polished certainty. He liked that more than he admitted. The early days were electric. Late dinners that turned into dawn. Notes scribbled on napkins. Her laughter echoing through rooms he'd never filled with anyone else. She didn't orbit his life, she stepped directly into it and made him notice the empty spaces. But ambition doesn't negotiate. It schedules. It postpones. It convinces you there will be time later. You're leaving again, Leonie says in the kitchen, arms folded now. For 2 weeks, Armand says. 3, max. You said that last time. He checks his phone. A notification slides down the screen. He swipes it away without reading. This deal changes everything, he says. After this, things slow down. She watches him. Really watches him. They never do, she replies. That was always her problem, he thought back then. She saw patterns he refused to name. The arguments didn't explode. They eroded. Missed dinners. Conversations cut short by calls. Promises phrased carefully enough to remain flexible. He loved her, he's certain of that, but he loved his momentum more. And momentum doesn't stop to explain itself. The final argument happens on a night that should have been quiet. No raised voices. No dramatic exit. Just honesty arriving too late. They sit on opposite ends of the couch, space between them like a third presence. Rain taps against the windows, steady, relentless. I don't need more money, Leonie says. I need you. Armand rubs his face, tired. I'm building something. I know, she says. But you're building it alone. He exhales. That's not fair. She nods. You're right. It's accurate. The words land heavy. This isn't permanent, he insists. You're asking me to choose. She meets his eyes. I am. And there it is. The moment he later tells himself he didn't recognize. He sees it now, the fork in the road, clean and unmistakable. Presence or potential. He doesn't answer right away. That's the answer. Leonie stands first. She doesn't cry. She never does in front of him. She walks to the bedroom and closes the door softly behind her. The sound echoes. 2 days later, she leaves. No screaming. No scene. Just boxes stacked neatly by the door. A note on the counter, brief, careful, kinder than he deserves. I won't compete with a future that never arrives. He reads it once. Then folds it. Then places it in a drawer he doesn't open again. She expects him to follow. That's what hurts most, in retrospect. She waits a full hour in the car, parked downstairs. He learns that later. Sits there with her hands on the wheel, engine off, heart pounding, telling herself she'll count to 60 one more time. He never comes down. Armand tells himself she'll call. She doesn't. He tells himself she'll cool off. She doesn't. Weeks pass. Then months. Her number stays in his phone. He never deletes it. He never dials it either. When he finally hears her name again, it's in passing. A mutual acquaintance mentions she moved. Doesn't say where. That figures, Armand says, lightly. She always liked starting over. He assumes she took a job. A fellowship. A sabbatical. Something that made sense within the logic of ambition. What he assumes, without ever admitting it, is that she would never do something without telling him. Would never disappear completely. Would never make a decision that excluded him entirely. Standing alone now, the restaurant long emptied of its drama, Armand's mind circles one brutal realization. She vanished shortly after the breakup. The timing isn't vague anymore. It's precise. Painfully so. The dates line up in his head with ruthless efficiency. The last night they were together. The morning she left. The silence that followed. He presses his palms to the table, grounding himself, breath shallow. If you've ever convinced yourself silence meant nothing was wrong, ask yourself this: what did you avoid asking because you were afraid of the answer? He sees it now, how easily he rewrote the story. He didn't lose her. He let her go. And she didn't drift away. She chose. The thought lands with weight. Because choices have consequences. And consequences don't stay buried forever. Armand closes his eyes. The image of Leonie in the doorway flashes again, older, steadier, carrying 2 lives he never imagined. The timeline clicks into place with a sound he can't unhear. What he thought he outran has been waiting. And it's no longer possible to pretend otherwise. Armand's thumb won't stop bleeding. He's in the backseat of his driver's car, city lights sliding across the tinted glass, and he keeps pressing a folded napkin to the cut like pressure will undo what happened tonight. The napkin is already stained through. The metallic smell of blood mixes with leather, cologne, and the faint, sweet smoke from the restaurant's candles clinging to his suit. His phone vibrates again. A message from Celeste. Not a paragraph. Not a confrontation. Just 4 words. Don't follow me. He reads it twice, as if the letters will rearrange into mercy. Outside, rain has started. The windshield wipers drag it away in slow arcs. Every scrape sounds like a judgment. Armand tries to replay the restaurant frame by frame, like a security camera. Leonie's face. The wrap. The babies. The pause before she answered nothing at all. And what he can't stop hearing is the room's quiet, how quickly strangers learn to be silent together, the way attention can turn you into a specimen. When he gets home, the penthouse feels wrong. Too clean. Too wide. Too quiet. His shoes click on marble as he crosses the living room. A wall of glass shows the city spread out like a circuit board. Everything below him still moves. Cars. People. Lives continuing. His does not. He tosses his keys into a bowl. They land with a dull clatter that seems louder than it should. He opens a bottle of water, takes one swallow, and sets it down untouched. He walks to the bedroom, then back to the living room, then to the kitchen, then back again. He does not sit. Sleep is not an option. His body refuses it like an allergy. At 2:11 a.m., he searches Leonie's name online. Nothing new. At 2:19 a.m., he searches again, adding the city. Still nothing. At 2:32 a.m., he scrolls through old photos he swore he didn't have. Her hair tucked behind her ear. Her hands holding a coffee cup. The angle of her smile when she thinks she's right. At 3:04 a.m., he opens his calendar from 3 years ago. His fingers hesitate over dates like they're hot. He counts backward without wanting to. He counts forward anyway. And in the silence between those numbers, something ugly takes shape. Not certainty. Worse. Probability. At 3:40 a.m., he stands in front of the bathroom mirror and stares at his own face as if it might confess. His eyes look older than they did this morning. At 4:15 a.m., he hears the first birds outside the glass wall and hates them for existing. By 6 a.m., he has already changed shirts twice, showered once, and poured coffee he doesn't drink. The caffeine smell hangs in the air, bitter and sharp. At 7:03 a.m., his assistant calls. Your 9 a.m. moved to 10, she says carefully, voice soft like she's speaking to someone grieving. Armand doesn't answer. Mr. Valeur, she tries again. He ends the call. The day passes like that, appointments dissolving, messages stacking, the world trying to keep him inside the shape he built for himself. He can't fit. Every time his mind drifts, it returns to the same image, Leonie's arms wrapped around that floral sling, her body angled instinctively to shield 2 tiny faces from a room full of strangers. His chest tightens until he forces air in, shallow and fast. He is not used to being powerless. By the second night, the paranoia arrives. Not paranoia that someone is after him. Paranoia that the truth exists and he is the only person stupid enough not to know it. He imagines Leonie leaving that restaurant and telling someone he saw them. It's done. He imagines Celeste calling her mother, her friends, her lawyer. He imagines headlines. He imagines twins growing up never knowing his name, while he watches a life he didn't choose slip out of reach because he waited too long to ask. At 1:18 a.m., he finally scrolls to a number he hasn't used in years. A name in his contacts, Soren Cade. He stares at it. The kind of contact you don't keep unless you've already decided you might one day become someone you don't want to be. Soren answers on the second ring. Valeur, he says. No greeting. Just recognition. Armand's throat is dry. I need information. There's a pause, quiet enough to hear the faint hum of Soren's office through the phone, air conditioning, a distant keyboard, the controlled stillness of someone awake for reasons that aren't healthy. About what? Soren asks. Armand hesitates. This is the moment where his life could go one of 2 ways, ask Leonie directly like a decent man, or use power like a shield. He chooses the shield. A woman, he says. Name, Leonie Mercer. Another pause. You want a location, Soren says, more statement than question. Armand closes his eyes. The kitchen light above the island flickers slightly, buzzing, like it's tired of being on. Yes. And you're asking me, Soren replies, voice flat, because you already know asking her won't work. Armand doesn't answer. Soren exhales, amused without humor. You want me to cross lines so you don't have to. Armand's jaw tightens. I'm paying you to do your job. Soren laughs once, low. That's not what you're paying for. You're paying for permission. Armand's stomach turns. He looks at his reflection in the dark glass wall, tall silhouette, shoulders squared, suit still expensive even at midnight. A man who can buy almost anything. Almost. I need the truth, Armand says quietly. Soren's voice loses its edge just slightly. The truth is never clean. That's the first thing you should know. Armand swallows. Do it. Silence. Then Soren says, send me everything you have. Photos. Old addresses. Mutual contacts. And don't call me again unless you're ready for what you find. The line goes dead. Armand stands there with the phone in his hand, the screen glowing against his palm like a small, accusing light. If you're watching this and thinking you'd never do something like that, be honest, have you ever invaded someone's privacy because you couldn't handle not knowing? And if you have, don't scroll past. Stay. Because what he finds next is the kind of truth that punishes everyone. 3 days pass. 3 days of pretending to work while his thoughts claw at him. 3 days of checking his phone so often his battery dies by afternoon. 3 days of hearing Celeste's last words on loop, silence is louder than lies. On the 4th day, Soren texts a single address. No explanation. Just coordinates. Armand's heart kicks hard enough to hurt. The address isn't in his world. It's across the river, in a neighborhood where buildings are closer together, where streetlights buzz and the sidewalks are cracked, where people carry groceries instead of portfolios. He parks 2 blocks away in a rental car he doesn't need, because anonymity suddenly matters. The air smells like rain on concrete and fried food from a corner shop. Somewhere, a dog barks. A child laughs. Life here is loud in ways his penthouse never is. He walks toward the building. His shoes sound wrong on the pavement. He stands across the street, staring at the entryway. And when the door opens, Leonie steps out. Not dressed up. No makeup. Hair pulled back. One twin strapped to her chest, the other in a stroller, bundled in a blanket patterned with tiny stars. She looks tired. But she looks steady. Armand's throat closes. He doesn't move. Because he suddenly understands what he's done. He didn't just search for answers. He followed her. He watched her. He turned her life into a file. And the cruelest part is that he still doesn't know the truth. Soren's second message arrives. A photo attachment. A close-up shot taken from a distance, grainy but clear enough. The twin in the wrap turns his face slightly, eyes open, staring toward the camera. Armand's blood runs cold. Those eyes. Then the final line appears beneath the image. No father listed. Birth certificate sealed. She used a private clinic. And valeur, the dates match. Armand's hands go numb around the phone. His stomach twists. He stares at Leonie across the street, the twins pressed against her like the world is always trying to take something. And the realization hits like a physical blow. Even if the babies are his. He has already become the kind of man she was running from. He's crossed a line he can't uncross. And he doesn't know if the truth will save him. Or destroy what's left. Armand crosses the street on a red light. A car honks, sharp, angry, brakes squealing wet against asphalt. He doesn't flinch. His focus is locked on Leonie's building entrance, on the way she shifts the stroller's front wheel over a crack in the pavement with the practiced precision of someone who's done it 100 times. He reaches the curb just as she fumbles for her keys. Leonie. Her shoulders tense instantly. Not surprise, recognition. Like she heard his voice in her head for 3 years and hated that it still fits. She doesn't turn. She slides the key into the lock, pushes the door open with her hip, and eases the stroller through first. The wrap creaks as the twin against her chest shifts. Armand steps into the doorway before she can close it. The hallway smells like detergent and old paint. Someone cooked onions recently. A radiator hisses behind the walls. The light above them flickers, as if even electricity is tired here. Leonie finally turns. Her face is calm. Too calm. You shouldn't be here, she says. Armand's mouth is dry. I saw you. In the restaurant. I know. Her gaze flicks to his shoes, expensive leather on scuff tile, then back to his face. That wasn't an invitation. He takes a breath, trying to sound reasonable. Trying to sound like the man who always knows what to say. I need to talk to you, he says. Leonie's hand rests on the stroller handle, knuckles pale. She keeps her other palm flat over the baby's back in the wrap, protective pressure that doesn't change even as she speaks. You already made yourself very clear, she replies. Armand hesitates. What does that mean? Leonie's eyes narrow slightly. You think I don't notice when a car sits 2 blocks away for 20 minutes? She asks softly. You think I don't notice the same face at the corner store twice in 1 week? Armand's stomach drops. He didn't think about that. In his world, surveillance is seamless. Invisible. Here, it's crude. It leaves fingerprints. He tries to recover. Leonie, No, she cuts in, the calm finally cracking at the edges. Don't pretend this is concern. This is control. Armand swallows. His throat feels tight, like his tie is choking him even though he loosened it. He can lie. He can deny. But her stare tells him she'll hear the lie before he says it. So he does something he's rarely forced to do. He tells the truth. I hired someone, he admits. To find you. The hallway seems to go colder. Leonie's lips part slightly, a breath catching. She looks down at the baby in the wrap, checking his face, his breathing, the way his tiny mouth relaxes, and then looks back at Armand with a kind of restrained fury that doesn't need volume. You hired someone, she repeats, voice quiet enough that it's almost worse than shouting. Armand nods once, ashamed and stubborn at the same time. I didn't know what else to do. Leonie's eyes shine, not with tears, she refuses him that, but with a sharp wetness that signals danger. You could have asked, she says. At the restaurant. Like a human being. You didn't give me a chance. Her laugh is a single, bitter exhale. Armand, you lost the right to chances the day you decided silence was easier than love. The baby in the stroller makes a small sound, a soft fussing whimper. Leonie's hand moves instantly, fingers brushing the blanket, gentle rhythmic taps against the tiny chest beneath it. Armand watches that motion. It's so automatic. So intimate. It knocks something loose in him. I didn't know, he says, voice low. If I had known. Leonie's face hardens. You're not allowed to rewrite history with if. Armand's jaw flexes. His pride tries to rise, tries to protect him. But then the baby in the wrap squirms again, letting out a soft, breathy cry that isn't loud, just insistent, like a question. Leonie adjusts the fabric, pulling the twin higher, her fingers quick and skilled. The baby's cheek presses to her collarbone. He quiets immediately. Armand's eyes sting. Not because he's emotional. Because he's seeing proof of a life that existed without him. Leonie takes a step back, as if deciding something. 5 minutes, she says. Armand blinks. What? She nods toward the hallway. You said you needed to talk. You get 5 minutes. And then you leave. Armand exhales, relief rushing in too fast. Thank you. Leonie's gaze snaps to him. Don't thank me, she says sharply. I'm not doing this for you. She turns and begins pushing the stroller down the hall. Armand follows, careful not to get too close, aware of how large he must look in this narrow space. They enter her apartment. It's small but clean. Shoes lined up near the door. A baby gate propped against the wall. A faint smell of lavender and warm milk. The living room is crowded with necessities, a folded play mat, tiny socks on the arm of the couch, bottles drying on a rack by the sink. This is not a place designed for guests. It's a place designed for survival. Leonie sets the stroller brakes with a soft click. The sound feels final. Armand stands near the entrance, unsure where to put his hands, his body suddenly too big for the room. You can look, Leonie says, voice flat. That's what you came for, isn't it? Confirmation. Armand swallows. I came for the truth. Leonie bends, unbuckling the stroller. The baby inside stirs, eyelids fluttering, mouth puckering. Leonie lifts him carefully, cradling him against her chest for a moment, then looks up at Armand. Sit, she says. It's not a request. Armand sits on the edge of the couch like it might break under him. Leonie steps closer with the baby in her arms. This is Remy, she says, voice softening despite herself. The name hits Armand like a punch. A person. Not a concept. Not a rumor. Remy's face is scrunched with sleep, lashes dark against his cheeks. A tiny fist opens and closes, searching for something. Leonie holds him out, not all the way, not carelessly, just enough. Don't, she warns. If you make him cry, you don't get another minute. Armand nods, throat tight. He extends a finger slowly, as if approaching something sacred. Remy's hand clamps down instantly. Not gently. With startling strength. Armand's breath stutters. His finger is trapped in that tiny grip. Warm. Damp. Alive. Real. Remy's eyes open halfway, unfocused, then sharpen slightly, flicking toward Armand's face with a slow, curious intensity. Armand freezes. The baby stares at him for a long beat. Then, without warning, Remy relaxes. His mouth curves, barely, into something that isn't quite a smile but feels like one. A sound escapes Armand's throat, half laugh, half choke. Leonie watches, and something flickers across her face. Not softness. Not forgiveness. Recognition. Like she's witnessing biology do what it wants, regardless of the mess adults make. Armand's pulse pounds in his ears. He whispers without thinking, he knows. Leonie's eyes snap back to him, sharp. No, she says. He doesn't know anything. He's a baby. But her voice isn't as steady as before. Armand looks up at her. How old are they? Leonie's jaw tightens. Old enough, she says. Leonie. She sets Remy back into the wrap against her chest with practice movements, securing the fabric with a tug that says this is her armor. Then she picks up the second twin from the stroller, supporting his head with 2 fingers, careful, competent. This is Silas, she says. Silas doesn't stir. He sleeps deeply, mouth slightly open, a soft wheeze of breath audible in the quiet room. His tiny ear is folded forward from the blanket. Armand leans closer, helpless. Silas's face is different from Remy's, subtle differences only someone close would notice. One has a slightly sharper nose. The other a wider brow. But the eyes. Armand feels the truth pressing behind his ribs, begging to be spoken. He looks at Leonie. Are they mine? He asks finally. The apartment goes still. Even the radiator seems to hush. Leonie holds Silas against her shoulder and looks at Armand as if weighing whether he deserves words at all. Yes, she says. Just one syllable. No drama. No anger. Just a verdict. Armand's vision blurs. His lungs forget what to do for a moment. He grips the edge of the couch, knuckles widening. Why didn't you tell me? He asks, voice breaking. Leonie's expression hardens again, like softness is dangerous. Because you made it clear you didn't want a life that required you, she says. You wanted a life that admired you. That's not true. Leonie's laugh is quiet, exhausted. Armand, you loved me when it was convenient. He flinches. She steps closer, and now her voice is low, controlled, lethal. You don't get to show up now like a hero, she says. You don't get to demand access like they're an investment you forgot to claim. Armand shakes his head quickly. I'm not demanding. I'm asking. I want. Leonie cuts him off. There are rules, she says. Armand's throat tightens. Rules. Leonie nods, rocking Silas gently as he sleeps. Rule 1, you don't stalk us again. Ever. Armand nods immediately. I won't. Rule 2, she continues, eyes locked on his, you don't come in and out. You don't visit when you feel guilty. You don't disappear when work gets loud. Her voice sharpens. No part-time father. Armand swallows hard. I can be here. I can. Leonie raises a hand. Don't promise what you haven't proven, she says. Because if you break their hearts, I will not give you another chance to do it again. Armand's chest aches. What do you want from me? Leonie's gaze doesn't soften. I want you to decide, she says. Right now. Not in 6 months. Not after you talk to lawyers. Not after you manage your image. She steps closer, close enough that Armand can smell the baby powder on her shirt, the faint sourness of sleeplessness, the warmth of milk. You're either in, Leonie says, or you're out. She pauses, letting the words settle. If you're in, she continues, you give them consistency. Time. Real presence. Not money. And if I'm out? Armand asks, voice barely audible. Leonie doesn't blink. Then you leave tonight, she says. And you never come back. Armin's mouth opens. Closes. He looks at the twins, one sleeping, one watching with heavy-lidded curiosity. Two tiny anchors tethered to a truth he can't unsee. His 5 minutes are gone. Leonie's hand reaches for the door. And Armand realizes, with a cold shock that tightens his stomach. This is the first time in his life his wealth means nothing. If you've ever walked away from someone who needed you and told yourself it didn't matter, don't lie to yourself here. Stay with this, because his next choice decides whether those boys grow up knowing his name, or only his absence. Leonie's fingers touch the doorknob. Armin's voice comes out ragged. Wait. And in that single word hangs the question he can't escape. Does he even deserve to stay? Armand is washing his hands at Leonie's sink when his phone starts buzzing in his pocket. Not a gentle vibration. A frantic one, back-to-back, insistent, as if the device is trying to climb out of the fabric. The apartment is quiet except for the soft click of the faucet and the faint hiss of the radiator. On the counter, a row of bottles dries upside down. A dish towel smells like lemon soap. Somewhere in the next room, one of the twins makes a sleepy, kitten-soft sound. Armand stares at the water running over his knuckles, then shuts the tap off too hard. The faucet squeaks. He doesn't answer the calls. Not yet. Not here. Leonie appears in the doorway without making noise, as if she's learned how to move through life without waking the fragile things that matter. Turn it off, she says quietly, nodding at the buzzing. Armand swallows and silences the phone. The screen flashes a name he's been avoiding. Celeste. Leonie's eyes flick there and back. She doesn't ask. She doesn't need to. She crosses the room and adjusts the wrap where Remy sleeps against her chest. His cheek is pressed to her collarbone, mouth slightly open, a bead of drool glistening under the lamp. She rocks once, a small sway that calms him without waking him. 5 minutes turned into 20, she says. Armin's throat tightens. I'm not trying to take more than you offered. Leonie watches him, measuring. Then she nods toward the living room. Sit, she says again, same tone as before. Not unkind. Not warm. Just firm. Armand sits. Leonie lowers herself onto the opposite end of the couch, careful, repositioning Silas into a small bouncer near her feet. The bouncer creaks. Silas's fingers flex and unclench like he's dreaming of grabbing something. Armand can't stop staring. They are so small, and yet the space they occupy in his chest feels enormous. Leonie follows his gaze, expression guarded. You want to hold him, she says. It's not an invitation. It's a test. Armand's breath catches. Yes. Leonie doesn't move right away. She reaches for a burp cloth first. Places it on his shoulder with brisk precision, like she's dressing him for a role he hasn't earned. Support his head, she says. Not like that. Like this. Her fingers guide his brief contact, cool and decisive. Then she lifts Silas and places him carefully into Armand's arms. Silas is heavier than Armand expects. Warm. Dense. A living weight that immediately changes how Armand breathes. The baby makes a sound, half sigh, half complaint, and Armand panics, instinctively rocking. Too fast. Leonie's voice cuts through him. Slow. Armand slows. Silas settles, eyelids fluttering, then opening. Those eyes. Armand's stomach flips. He has seen that exact gaze in the mirror every morning of his life. The same slight downturn at the outer corners. The same depth that looks too serious for a child. Silas stares at him. Not blankly. Like he's studying. Armand's grip tightens unconsciously. Leonie notices immediately. Don't clutch, she says. Hold. Armand exhales, loosening his fingers, adjusting the baby's weight until it sits securely in the crook of his arm. Silas's tiny hand drifts upward and lands against Armand's shirt, grabbing fabric. A slow, spreading heat moves through Armand's chest, not joy, something sharper. Something frightening. Because it feels like belonging. He hears himself whisper, "Hi." Leonie's eyes flick up, then away again, as if she refuses to witness softness too closely. Don't get attached, she says, but her voice isn't as hard as the words. Armand looks up. How can I not? Leonie's jaw tightens. That's your problem, not mine. Silas shifts, nose wrinkling. His mouth opens in a silent "oh." Then his face turns toward Armand's chest, nuzzling like he's searching. Armand freezes. What? Bottle, Leonie says, already moving. She picks up a bottle from the warmer, tests it on her wrist, then holds it out. Armand takes it with shaking fingers. Leonie leans forward and guides the nipple to Silas's mouth. The baby latches instantly. The sound is quiet but relentless, tiny swallows, soft suction, the faintest sighs between gulps. Silas's eyelids droop. His hand remains clutching Armand's shirt like it's a rope. Armand doesn't move. He barely breathes. He looks down at the baby feeding in his arms, and the world tilts. This isn't a headline. This isn't a rumor. This isn't a moral debate. It's a small human being trusting him with no idea who he is. Armand's eyes sting. He blinks hard. Leonie watches his face carefully, like she's waiting for him to turn this moment into theater. He doesn't. He can't. And in the quiet, Armand realizes something terrifying. If he leaves now, he will remember this sound for the rest of his life. The bottle empties. Silas's mouth relaxes. He releases the nipple with a tiny smack, then settles back, satisfied, heavy with milk. Leonie reaches to take him. Armand hesitates. Just a second. Leonie sees it. Her eyes sharpen. Don't, she warns. Armand lets go, handing Silas back as if surrendering something he's already begun to want too much. Leonie settles Silas into the bouncer again, straps him in with quick movements, then turns toward Armand. You're done, she says. Armand's throat tightens. I need more time. Leonie's laugh is short. Everyone does. He leans forward, desperate. Leonie, I can. His phone buzzes again. The sound slices the room open. Leonie's gaze darts to the phone like it's a weapon. Armand grabs it and silences it, but it's too late. The interruption has done what interruptions always do, it drags reality back in. He glances at the screen. More than calls now. Messages. Links. A headline preview. Billionaire Valeur's proposal interrupted by mystery woman with twins. His stomach drops. They already have footage. Of course they do. Leonie's face changes, subtle, but immediate. Her lips press together. Her fingers tighten around the strap of the wrap holding Remy. You brought this here, she says quietly. Armand's voice cracks. I didn't. You exist loudly, Leonie interrupts. That's what money does. It makes your life echo into other people's rooms. Armand looks down at the headline again, cold spreading under his skin. The restaurant. The phones. The silence. He sees it clearly now, he wasn't just watched. He was recorded. Leonie stands, rocking Remy as the baby stirs. If they find me, she says, voice low, I will disappear. Armand's chest tightens. Don't. Leonie's eyes are sharp. You don't get to tell me what to do, she says. Not after you hired a man to track me. Shame burns up Armand's throat. He reaches for control because he doesn't know what else to reach for. I can handle the media, he says quickly. I can fix this. Leonie's expression is lethal in its calm. You can't fix my children, she says. They are not damage control. Armand opens his mouth, then his phone buzzes again. This time, the name on the screen freezes him. Celeste. He doesn't answer. Leonie sees it anyway. The flicker in his eyes. The hesitation. You're still engaged, she says, not as a question. As a fact that tastes like metal. Armand stands abruptly. It's complicated. Leonie's laugh is quiet, bitter. No, she says. It's simple. You were kneeling with a ring. Armand's chest aches. I didn't know about them. Leonie's voice drops. But you know now. The phone buzzes again, and then again. Finally, Armand answers because if he doesn't, the silence will become its own confession. Celeste. Her voice is controlled. Too controlled. Where are you? She asks. Armand's eyes close. He hears the baby's soft breathing. He smells lemon soap and milk. He feels the imprint of Silas's grip still on his shirt. He starts. Celeste's voice hardens. Don't lie, she says. Not after last night. Armand swallows. The truth is a sharp object in his mouth. I'm with her, he admits. With Leonie. There's a pause so long he can hear Celeste's breathing on the line, shallow and fast. Then she says, quietly, are they yours? Armand looks at Leonie. Leonie doesn't move. Doesn't nod. Doesn't rescue him. Armand's voice comes out rough. Yes. Another silence. Celeste exhales once, shaky. So the story is real, she says. And you're standing in it. Armand's jaw tightens. Celeste, please. No, she cuts in, voice suddenly sharp. You don't get to ask for patience while I'm being humiliated on every screen in the city. Armand flinches. I didn't want this to be public. Celeste's laugh is thin. Neither did I, she says. But your world doesn't stay private. Armand opens his mouth, then stops. Because Leonie is watching him now. Not with anger. With assessment. Like this is the real test. Not whether he can hold a baby. But whether he can tell the truth when it costs him. Celeste's voice drops, quiet enough to feel dangerous. If you come home tonight, she says, we talk like adults. A beat. And if you don't, she continues, I'll assume the ring meant nothing. Armand's heart pounds. He's trapped between two doors again, just like before. One door is reputation, image, the life he built with precision. The other is two sleeping babies and a woman who has already survived without him. Leonie shifts Remy higher in the wrap, eyes steady. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Her silence says, choose. If you've ever watched someone's life collapse and thought, he'll fix it later, don't tell yourself that lie here. Because later is how people lose everything. Armand ends the call without saying goodbye. The screen goes dark. And in the quiet that follows, he realizes he's running out of time to decide what kind of man he is. Because the next choice isn't about love. It's about truth. And he can't keep both, his reputation and his children, without paying for one of them in full. Armand is in the boardroom when his phone lights up with a picture of Remy's face. Leonie doesn't send hearts. She doesn't send captions. Just the photo. Remy's blue knit cap is crooked. One eyebrow is scrunched like he's offended by gravity. His tiny fist is pressed against his mouth, two fingers half swallowed, eyes wide and dark. Armand stares at it until the edges of the screen blur. Across the table, 12 people wait for him to speak. The boardroom smells like polished wood and espresso. The windows are floor to ceiling, framing the city as a possession. The kind of room where Armand has made enemies sweat without raising his voice. Today, his suit feels like armor that no longer fits. Mr. Valeur, the CFO says carefully, sliding a folder toward him, we need your decision. Armand blinks, forcing himself back into the room. The folder is thick. Red tab. Urgent. On the cover, Orem Partners, termination notice, draft. His stomach tightens. Orem isn't just a partner. Orem is the pillar under a major segment of his company's expansion. Losing them doesn't mean a bruise. It means a fracture that spreads. The CFO continues, voice controlled. They're pulling out unless we relocate the entire operational core to Geneva within 14 days. 14. A number that doesn't feel like business. It feels like a clock. Armand's pulse picks up. Why, he asks, although he already knows the answer will be ugly. The head of legal clears her throat. Regulatory pressure. Tax exposure. And, she glances at another executive, reputation risk. Armand's eyes sharpen. Say it. The room goes still. The legal head slides a tablet across the table. On the screen, a paused video. His own face. The restaurant. The ring box. Leonie at the entrance with twins strapped against her chest. The headline beneath it blares like a siren. Billionaire's proposal derails, secret family? The video has been watched millions of times. In less than 48 hours, his private collapse became public entertainment. The COO exhales. They're calling it instability, he says. They want you on the ground in Geneva to reassure markets. Full immersion. No distractions. Armand's fingers curl around the edge of the table. No distractions, he repeats. He thinks of Silas's eyes tracking him across Leonie's small apartment. He thinks of Remy's fist gripping his finger like it was a promise. He thinks of Celeste's voice on the phone, if you don't come home, I'll assume the ring meant nothing. And then he hears Leonie's rule, clear as steel. No part-time father. Armand sits back slowly. The boardroom waits. In his world, this is where power lives, decisions, signatures, leverage. But the truth is, power is changing shape in his hands. It's becoming something else. What happens if we don't move? Armand asks. The CFO doesn't flinch. We lose Orem. Cash flow tightens. Stock dips. Competitors circle. We start layoffs. Armand's jaw tightens. Layoffs mean headlines. Headlines mean more scrutiny. Scrutiny means Leonie disappears. And if Leonie disappears, so do the twins. The pressure builds behind his ribs like steam. We can't do 14 days, Armand says finally. We can negotiate. The COO shakes his head. We tried. They're dug in. They want you physically present. They want certainty. Armand hears himself laugh, low and humorless. Certainty, he murmurs, like the word is a joke. He looks down at Leonie's photo of Remy again. And suddenly, he realizes what this crisis really is. It isn't about Geneva. It's about whether he can keep being the kind of man who chooses money first and calls it responsibility. Armand slides the phone face down. He stands. The chair scrapes. All eyes follow him. We'll do a counter-proposal, he says. Relief flickers across the CFO's face. But Armand continues, voice steady. We keep operations here. We establish a Geneva satellite for compliance. I'll travel as needed. The COO's eyebrows rise. Mr. Valeur, Orem explicitly asked for you. Then they can ask again, Armand says, sharper now. We don't move the spine of the company because a partner panics. The legal head leans forward. Armand, she says quietly, this isn't panic. It's leverage. They know you're exposed. That word, exposed, slices through him. Because it's true. He is. And he hates that he is. His voice hardens. Fine, he says. Then we renegotiate from strength. The CFO speaks carefully. And if they refuse? Armand's eyes flick to the tablet again, the restaurant video, paused forever in humiliation. His pride rises like a reflex. His old self, sharp and hungry, ready to burn everything down rather than bend. But then he hears a baby's small sigh in his memory. And his anger shifts direction. Set a call with Orem, he says. Now. The call happens an hour later in his office. The office smells like leather and cedar and expensive silence. A wall of awards gleams under recessed lighting. Every object was chosen to signal permanence. Armand sits behind his desk with the speakerphone glowing between his hands like a trigger. The voice on the other end belongs to Madame Kessler, Orem's representative. Her tone is polished, faintly amused. Mr. Valeur, she says, your situation has become complicated. Armand's mouth tightens. My company is not my situation. It is when investors associate the brand with you, she replies smoothly. We require stability. A clear signal. You want me in Geneva, Armand says. Yes, Kessler answers. Within 14 days. Permanently, ideally. Armand's throat tightens again. He thinks of Leonie's apartment. The cracked sidewalk. The lemon soap smell. The baby's bottles drying near the sink. He thinks of how Leonie's eyes never soften when she talks about stability. Because stability isn't aesthetic for her. It's survival. I can be in Geneva, Armand says slowly, for a limited period. Rotating schedule. I'll. Kessler interrupts. No. One syllable. Absolute. Armand's jaw clenches. No? You are either fully committed, she says, or we are done. You will understand, Mr. Valeur, business has no patience for distraction. Armand's fingers tighten around the edge of his desk. Anger spikes hot. Distraction. Like his children are static on the line. He hears himself breathe, heavier. Kessler, he says, voice low, you're using my personal life as leverage. There's a faint pause. Then her voice cools. We are using risk. Your personal life created it. Armand closes his eyes. Frustration rises into rage. He wants to slam the phone. He wants to threaten lawsuits and burn bridges and remind them exactly who he is. But his world is not the only world at stake anymore. He opens his eyes and makes himself speak with control. I'm not relocating, he says. Silence on the line. Then Kessler says, evenly, then we will begin termination proceedings. The words land like a punch. Armand's chest tightens. Fear arrives. Not fear of losing money. Fear of losing time. Because if he loses this partnership, the dominoes fall fast. And when dominoes fall, Leonie will vanish before he can stop it. Armand exhales slowly. He tries again, softer. There has to be another way. Kessler's voice is almost pitying now. There is, she says. Choose the company. Choose the company. The phrase echoes in him, colliding with a memory of Leonie's voice in that old apartment kitchen. You're asking me to compete with a future that never arrives. His hands go cold. He realizes something with sudden clarity. This is the same test again. Just dressed in a new suit. Presence or potential. And the world is watching which one he chooses. If you've ever told yourself you'll show up once things calm down, listen carefully, things don't calm down. Life just keeps charging interest on your absence. Stay, because his next move costs him something real. Armand ends the call without another word. He sits still for a moment, staring at the dark screen of the speakerphone. Then he stands and walks to the window. Below, the city buzzes. Cars move. People hurry. Somewhere, Leonie is rocking a baby to sleep, counting diapers and minutes and threats she can't control. Armand's phone vibrates. A message from Leonie. One line. They're asking if you're coming back. No names. But he knows she means the twins. His throat tightens. He types back with trembling fingers. I'm on my way. He grabs his coat and leaves the office without explaining. Leonie opens the door with Remy strapped to her chest and exhaustion written into the corners of her eyes. Armand stands in the hallway, suit rumpled, tie loosened, breathing hard like he ran up the stairs. We need to talk, he says. Leonie's gaze sharpens. About what? He swallows. About Geneva. Leonie's expression doesn't change, but her body stills, like she's bracing. What about it? She asks. Armand forces the words out. They want me to relocate. Permanently. Leonie's jaw tightens. And I said no, Armand says. The silence that follows is heavy. Leonie's eyes narrow slightly, as if she's trying to find the trap. You said no, she repeats. Armand nods. I said no. Leonie shifts Remy higher in the wrap. The baby's head bumps her collarbone, he sighs and settles. And you expect me to applaud? She asks quietly. Armand flinches. No. I expect you to understand what it costs. Leonie's gaze stays steady. Do you? She asks. Armand's throat tightens. I might lose the company. Leonie's face flickers, just for a beat, with something like surprise. Then she says, flatly, you're telling me this because you want credit. Armand opens his mouth, then closes it. Because she's not wrong. He does want credit. He wants someone to witness that he's trying. But Leonie doesn't hand out praise. She hands out boundaries. She steps back, letting him into the apartment. Sit, she says, voice tight. And tell me what you're really doing. Armand sits on the couch, hands gripping his knees. He looks at the baby's things scattered around the room, bottles, tiny socks, a folded blanket with star patterns. Then he looks up at Leonie. I'm choosing them, he says finally. I'm choosing to stay. Leonie's eyes harden. For how long? She asks. Armand swallows. For good. Leonie laughs once, quiet, incredulous. You don't get to promise for good like it's a gift, she says. You get to prove it. Armand nods, desperate. I will. Leonie's face doesn't soften. Because she knows how men like him work. How they offer grand gestures when cornered. How they disappear when the pressure shifts. And then she says the sentence that snaps the room colder. If you lose everything, Leonie asks, voice low, will you resent them? Armand's mouth opens. No sound comes out. That question is the real sacrifice test. Not Geneva. Not money. Resentment. Leonie steps closer, eyes locked on his. Answer, she says. Armand stares at the twins, one sleeping, one stirring, both unaware of the cost of being loved. His chest feels too tight for air. And he realizes, with a sick, sharp fear. This might destroy everything he built. And if it does, he doesn't know who he'll become. Because the decision he's about to make can't be undone. Armand steps onto the stage while his phone is still vibrating in his pocket. The auditorium lights are hot against his skin. The air smells like new carpet, warm electronics, and cologne layered over anxiety. Rows of investors sit in disciplined silence, faces lit faintly by the glow of their tablets. Somewhere to his left, a camera operator adjusts a lens, small clicks that sound like teeth. Behind him, the giant screen displays the company logo, sharp, metallic letters that used to make him feel invincible. Today, it feels like a target. He reaches the podium. His fingers wrap around the edges, studying himself. The microphone hums softly, alive, waiting. From the front row, his CFO looks up at him with eyes that say, "Don't do this. Don't make it worse." But it's already worse. The night after Geneva fell apart, the internet did what it always does, it took a private fracture and made it a sport. Not just the restaurant video anymore. A new clip circulates now. Grainier. Shot from across the street. Leonie pushing a stroller. One twin in a floral wrap against her chest. Armand lingering near a lamppost like a shadow that doesn't know where to stand. The caption is vicious in its simplicity. He found them. Investors don't care about captions. They care about instability. They care about narratives they can't control. Armand clears his throat. The sound echoes too loudly in the vast room. "Good morning," he begins. A murmur ripples through the seats. No greeting back. No warmth. Just expectation. He sees his reflection faintly in the glossy surface of the podium. A man in a dark suit, jaw tight, eyes too sharp. The kind of man people trust to never let anything personal leak into the business. He thinks of Silas's hand gripping his shirt. Remy's crooked hat. Leonie's question like a blade. "If you lose everything, will you resent them?" His pocket buzzes again. He doesn't look. He already knows it's another notification. Another headline. Another angle on his humiliation. He looks out at the crowd instead and begins the only way he can. "In the last 72 hours, Armand says, voice controlled, there have been rumors about my personal life." The room stiffens. A few heads lift, interest sharpening. Even the people pretending to be above gossip are listening harder now. Armand pauses. Silence. The kind that isn't empty, it's loaded. If you're watching this and you've ever judged someone from a headline, don't. Not yet. Stay, because what he says next costs him more than money. A man in the second row raises his hand slightly, impatient. "Is it true?" he calls. "Do you have children?" Armand's chest tightens. He could dodge. He could deflect. He could promise clarity later. That's what the room expects. That's what his lawyers begged him to do. But the problem with later is that Leonie disappears in later. The twins become ghosts. Truth becomes a weapon in other people's hands. So Armand does the thing he's never done in this world. He speaks plainly. "Yes," he says. A sharp collective inhale. Across the aisle, someone's tablet clacks as it slips from their fingers and hits the floor. A few people lean toward each other, whispering. Camera shutters start popping like distant hail. Armand keeps going before fear can pull him backward. "I have 2 sons," he says. "They are infants. And until very recently, I did not know they existed." A ripple of disbelief sweeps the room. Some faces harden immediately. Suspicion. Judgment. The quiet thrill of seeing a powerful man bleed. One investor scoffs aloud. How does a man not know he has twins? Armand's jaw tightens. Heat rises in his throat. He doesn't snap back. He doesn't insult. He holds the microphone closer, voice low, deliberate. "Because I made choices that created distance," he says. "And distance has consequences." The words taste like metal. A woman in the third row folds her arms. "So you're admitting negligence?" Armand nods once. "I'm admitting reality." The CFO's face tightens. Armand feels the room shifting against him, like a tide turning. Every sentence is a risk. Every breath could be clipped and posted out of context. He stares out at them, forcing his voice to stay even. "I built this company by insisting on accountability," he says. "On showing up. On doing what others avoid." A few skeptical laughs scatter through the room. Armand hears them. Lets them land. Doesn't flinch. "And I failed," he continues. "Not as a CEO. As a man. As someone who thought work excused absence." He pauses again. The cameras keep rolling. He can almost feel Leonie's eyes on him, even though she isn't here. He can almost hear the twins breathing. He swallows and says the next part carefully. This does not weaken my leadership, Armand says. It strengthens it. Now the room reacts. Louder. Sharper. A man near the back calls out, "That's Spin." Armand's gaze locks onto him. No, he says. It's responsibility. He lifts one hand, palm open, no fists, no threat, no dominance. In the last week, I've learned something I should have learned years ago, Armand says. You can measure success in revenue, yes. In market share, yes. But if you cannot be trusted in the smallest room, if you cannot show up for the people who depend on you, then you are not stable. You are just skilled. He lets the words sit. The room quiets slightly, confused by the lack of performance. He isn't selling confidence. He's offering truth. And if you're thinking, Armand adds, voice sharp now, that fatherhood is a distraction, ask yourself how you define stability. He gestures subtly to the screen behind him where the company logo glows. This company isn't stable because I never make mistakes, he says. It's stable because when mistakes happen, we own them and correct them. Publicly. Directly. The CFO shifts, jaw clenched. This is not in the script. Armand knows. A woman in the front row stands abruptly. Orem is terminating, she says, voice cutting. Because they don't trust you. The words hit like a body blow. The room erupts into murmurs. Phones rise. The phrase Orem is terminating spreads like wildfire. Armand's stomach turns cold. So it's happening. The collapse. He feels the floor tilt under him. But he stays upright. He forces himself to breathe. Vulnerability is one thing. Defiance is another. Integrity is what comes after both. Orem's decision, Armand says, voice steady, does not define ours. A man snaps, it defines your valuation. Armand nods, accepting the punch. Yes, he says. And I won't pretend otherwise. The honesty makes them uncomfortable. Good. I won't promise you a smooth quarter, Armand continues. I won't promise you headlines won't get worse before they get better. His voice lowers. But I will promise you this, I will not lie to protect my image. A hush falls. He can hear the camera operator's lens zooming in. The faint whir feels like an insect near his ear. Armand takes a breath. Then he says the sentence that seals his fate either way. My sons deserve a father who doesn't hide, he says. And you deserve a leader who doesn't hide. If that costs us partners who prefer silence, then we will rebuild with partners who value truth. For a second, the room is still. Then the pushback hits, fierce. Voices overlap. You're emotional. You're compromised. This is reckless. This is branding suicide. Your private life is not our problem. Armand grips the podium, knuckles widening. He wants to shout. He wants to slam his fist. Instead, he does something harder. He listens. He lets the accusations wash over him without interrupting, without defending himself with ego. He waits until the noise burns itself out. Then he speaks again, quieter. You're right, Armand says. My private life is not your problem. He pauses. But my integrity is. The room stills again, slowly. He sees it, the split. Half the audience is disgusted. Half is uneasy. A few are curious. Curiosity is leverage. Armand lifts his gaze to the cameras. I'm not asking for sympathy, he says. I'm asking for patience while we do the work. A beat. And if you don't have patience, he adds, then leave. But don't leave because I have children. His eyes narrow slightly. Leave because you believe accountability is weakness, he says. And if that's your belief, this company was never for you. A sharp intake of breath sweeps the room. The CFO looks like he's about to faint. A man near the aisle stands, furious. We're not funding a moral lesson, he snaps. Armand nods once, calm. Then don't. Silence again. Heavy. Then a chime sounds from the CFO's tablet. A new message. He turns the screen toward Armand with a face gone pale. Armand sees the subject line and feels his blood turn to ice. Orem Partners, termination filed. Effective immediately. The deal isn't just collapsing. It's collapsing right now. Armand's fingers tighten around the podium. The cameras zoom closer. The audience leans forward, hungry. This is the moment the world expects him to crack. And he realizes the outcome depends on one brutal question. In his world, this world of money and power, does truth have value? Or is it just another weakness to exploit? Armand learns the sound of a baby waking up in stages. First, a soft rustle, fabric shifting in the crib. Then the small, wounded whimper that doesn't commit to crying yet, like a question. Then the full-bodied protest that rises fast, urgent and raw, filling Leonie's apartment until the walls feel smaller. It's 3:17 a.m. The room smells like warm milk and detergent and the faint sour edge of exhaustion. A nightlight throws a dim amber pool across the floor, catching the outline of scattered toys and the shadow of a bottle on the dresser. Armand sits up on the edge of the narrow couch, eyes gritty, hair flattened on one side. His suit is gone. His watch is gone. His life is pared down to bare basics: clean t-shirt, sweatpants, a blanket that smells like Leonie's lavender soap. A cry sharpens from the nursery. Leonie is already moving, barefoot on the floor, quiet as a practice thief. She doesn't look at Armand as she passes. She doesn't ask him to help. She doesn't trust the help yet. Armand stands anyway. The nursery door is half open. He hears Leonie's voice, low and rhythmic, not words as much as sound, shhh, 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 like she's smoothing the air itself. Then Remy's cry breaks through again, louder. Armand steps closer, careful, palms open, like approaching a wild animal. Leonie glances over her shoulder. Her eyes are tired. Not angry. Not soft. Just tired. I've got him, she says. Armand swallows. Let me try. Leonie hesitates for a beat, long enough that Armand feels the old irritation rise. The part of him that hates waiting. The part that thinks competence should be assumed. But this isn't his boardroom. This is her children. Leonie's hesitation is not about him. It's about risk. She finally steps aside without speaking. Armand leans over the crib. Remy's face is scrunched red, fists clenched, legs kicking against the mattress like it betrayed him. Silas, in the adjacent crib, stirs but doesn't fully wake. Armand breathes in, slow. He remembers the first time Remy's hand clamped onto his finger like a trap. He reaches down now, letting Remy's tiny fingers curl around his index finger again. The grip is immediate. Familiar. Fierce. Remy's cry doesn't stop, but it changes, less rage, more complaint. Armand lifts him carefully, supporting his head, drawing him close. Remy's body is warm and damp, a living furnace. He rocks, slow. Remy's cries taper into hiccuping sobs. Armand hums without realizing he's doing it. A low vibration in his chest. Remy's forehead presses into his collarbone. The baby's breath puffs hot against his skin. Leonie watches from the doorway, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. Not disapproving. Guarded. Armand shifts Remy slightly, the way he's learned. The baby quiets another notch. Silence expands. The kind that isn't empty, just fragile. Armand looks up at Leonie. Her gaze drops quickly, as if she refuses to let him catch gratitude. You can put him back when he's asleep, she says flatly. Armand nods, swallowing something thick. Okay. This is how it starts. Not with forgiveness. Not with romance. With competence. With repetition. With showing up at 3:17 a.m. without applause. Weeks blur. Armand's life becomes a calendar of small emergencies. Diapers that explode at the worst possible moment. Bottles warmed too hot. A stroller wheel that jams on a crack in the sidewalk. Remy's sudden hatred of the pacifier. Silas's inexplicable terror of the vacuum cleaner. He learns that parenting is not one decision. It's 1,000. And every one of them asks the same question. Will you stay? Some days, Armand fails. He snaps when the babies won't settle and the hallway neighbor bangs on the wall. He checks his phone too often. He takes a work call in the kitchen and Leonie's face tightens like a door locking. You're here, she says afterward, voice clipped, but you're not present. The words sting because they echo the past too perfectly. Armand swallows pride and says, you're right. Saying that doesn't fix anything. But it changes the air. Another day, Leonie leaves him alone with both twins for the first time. It isn't announced. It just happens. She stands at the door with her keys in hand, hair pulled back, jacket half on. I have to go, she says. 20 minutes. Armin's pulse spikes. Where? Leonie gives him a look. To be a person, she says. Then, quieter, don't panic them. The door closes. The lock clicks. Armand stands there for a full second, staring at the closed door like it's a trap. Then Silas starts crying. Remy joins in, a beat later, as if solidarity is coded into their bones. Armand moves fast, too fast, scooping Silas up, then fumbling with Remy's bottle. Milk splashes on the counter. The bottle slips from his wet fingers and clatters into the sink. The sound is loud enough to make Silas cry harder. Armand's breathing turns shallow. His mind flashes back to boardrooms, to confidence, to decisions that moved markets. And then to the nursery. To tiny faces turning red, mouths open, eyes squeezed shut. Nothing he has ever built prepared him for this. He forces himself to slow down. He sets Silas against his shoulder, patting gently, firm rhythm. He picks up the bottle again, dries it, warms it properly. The crying doesn't stop immediately. It never does. But gradually, the chaos shifts into something manageable. Silas's sobs turn into hiccups. Remy gulps greedily. The apartment stops feeling like it's closing in. When Leonie returns, she finds Armand sitting on the couch with both twins, one in each arm, his hair disheveled, shirt stained with milk. Remy is asleep with his mouth open. Silas is awake, staring at the ceiling fan like it's performing a miracle. Leonie pauses in the doorway. Her eyes scan the room, the babies, Armand's posture. No harm. No panic. Just survival. She doesn't smile. But her shoulders drop a fraction, like she's setting down a weight she didn't know she was still holding. Armand looks up, exhausted. They're fine, he says. Leonie nods once. And in that nod is the smallest crack in the wall. Celeste disappears from the story the way she walked out of the restaurant. Cleanly. There's no screaming scene. No courtroom drama. Just a message from her lawyer, formal and cold, delivered to Armand's office. A request to return a bracelet. A quiet termination of an engagement that never got the dignity of closure. Armand holds the letter for a long time, thumb smoothing the paper until it creases. He feels guilt, yes. But also clarity. Celeste deserved a man whose life didn't detonate in public. He doesn't chase her. He doesn't beg. For once, he accepts the consequence without trying to negotiate it. When he tells Leonie, she doesn't celebrate. She just watches him carefully, as if waiting for him to blame someone. Armand doesn't. I hurt her, he says. I can't undo it. Leonie's eyes narrow. And what do you want, absolution? Armand shakes his head. No, he says. I want to be honest. Leonie doesn't answer. But later that night, when Silas won't sleep, Leonie hands him the baby without a word. No instruction. No warning. Just trust, placed quietly into his arms. Time does its slow, unglamorous work. Armand begins to look like someone who lives in this apartment. A spare toothbrush appears in the bathroom. A folded shirt in a drawer. He learns where Leonie keeps the extra wipes and how she prefers the bottles arranged. He learns not to leave his shoes in the walkway because Leonie trips in the dark. He also learns her silences. The one that means she's angry. The one that means she's scared. The one that means she's almost ready to say something softer but won't. One evening, after the twins finally fall asleep, Remy sprawled like a starfish, Silas curled on his side, Armand and Leonie sit at the tiny kitchen table. The apartment is quiet except for the soft hum of the fridge. A streetlight outside throws pale stripes across the floor. Armand rubs his palms together, raw from washing bottles. Leonie drinks tea, hands wrapped around the mug like warmth is something she has to hold on to. They don't speak at first. The silence stretches. Then Leonie says, quietly, you're still here. It's not praise. It's disbelief. Armand's throat tightens. Yes. Leonie's eyes stay on her mug. Most men would have run by now, she says. Armand swallows. I'm not most men. Leonie finally looks up, and for the first time in a long time, her gaze isn't sharp. It's tired. Vulnerable in a way she doesn't offer often. Armand's chest tightens. He reaches across the table slowly, not touching her, just placing his hand near hers, palm up, open. Leonie stares at it. For a moment, the air feels like it did years ago in that old kitchen, a choice hovering between them. Then, unexpectedly, she slides her fingers into his. Her hand is cool. Calloused at the fingertips. Real. Armin's breath catches. Leonie's grip is light, like she could pull away at any second. And maybe she will. The intimacy is so sudden it feels like a trapdoor opening under him. He whispers, Leonie. She squeezes once, barely. Don't, she says softly. Don't make it big. Armand nods, throat burning. He doesn't move. He just holds her hand, listening to the quiet apartment breathe. This is the moment emotional intimacy resurfaces, small, unexpected, dangerous. And it leaves one question hanging in the air like a suspended note. Is this the start of something again? Or just two exhausted adults clinging to the same fragile stability? If you've ever wanted someone back after you broke them, don't pretend love is enough. Stay with this, because the next step isn't romance. It's risk. And neither of them knows if they can afford it. Armand is on one knee again. But this time, it isn't in a cathedral of chandeliers and whispered wealth. It's on a worn wooden floor that creaks under his weight, in a living room that smells faintly of pancakes and finger paint. Sunlight slants through cheap curtains, warming the dust in the air. A plastic dinosaur lies on its side near the couch like it collapsed mid-roar. A small sock, tiny, striped, clings to the leg of a chair as if it tried to escape. Remy, now too and unstoppable, has climbed onto the coffee table like it's a mountain. Silas, his twin shadow, stands on the rug below, arms raised, demanding to be lifted. Up. Silas insists, cheeks flushed, hair sticking up in one stubborn tuft. Remy turns dramatically toward Armand and announces, loud enough to shake the windows, Daddy, fall down. Armand laughs, breathless, balancing on his knee while holding a shoelace between his fingers. He's trying to tie a tiny sneaker on Silas's foot before the toddler bolts. I'm not falling down, Armand says, tugging the lace tighter. I'm. Fall down. Remy repeats, delighted by his own authority. Leonie's voice drifts from the kitchen. If you don't get them out the door in 5 minutes, we're late. Late. A word that once meant meetings and deadlines and private planes. Now it means preschool drop-off and snack bags and whether Silas will accept the wrong sippy cup. Armand finishes the knot just as Silas tries to sprint away. Armand catches him by the waist, lifting him, and Silas squeals like a siren. Remy claps. Again. Armand stands, hoisting Silas onto his hip, and looks toward the kitchen. Leonie is there, hair tied up, sleeves pushed to her elbows, a smear of flour on her cheek she doesn't notice. She holds 2 lunchboxes in one hand, a set of tiny jackets draped over her arm. The kettle whistles softly behind her. She is not dressed like the woman who once stepped into a luxury restaurant with twins hidden against her chest. She looks like someone who owns her life. When her eyes meet Armin's, something passes between them that doesn't need words. Not romance as a rescue. Not forgiveness as a prize. Just, history, survived. Armand crosses the room, Silas bouncing on his hip, Remy hopping behind him like a small storm. Leonie hands him a lunchbox without looking away. Her fingers brushes briefly, an accidental touch that still feels intentional. We're going to be late, she repeats. Armand grins. We're always late. Leonie arches an eyebrow. We're late when someone insists on doing the shoes personally. Armand looks down at Silas's tiny sneaker. It matters. Remy interrupts by slamming his hands onto Armand's thigh. Daddy. Show. Armand blinks. Show what? Remy points at the floor dramatically. Daddy, fall down, show. Leonie exhales, half laugh, half warning. Please don't encourage him. Armand shifts Silas down, steadying him with one hand, then looks at Remy. You want me to fall down? He asks. Remy nods vigorously. Yes. Armand glances at Leonie. She's trying to hide a smile. He drops to one knee again, exaggerated and slow, like a performer. Remy squeals. Silas shrieks with laughter. Armand catches himself with one hand on the floor, grinning up at them. And suddenly the memory strikes like a flash of cold water. Another room. Another knee. Another silence. A ring box open in trembling hands. Celeste in red. Leonie at the doorway with twins. A proposal that shattered mid-breath. Armand's smile falters for half a second. Leonie sees it. She always sees it. Her expression softens, just a little, and she crosses the room, crouching beside him. You okay? She asks quietly, so the boys won't hear. Armand looks at her. The woman he thought he could outrun. The life he didn't know existed. The choice he didn't make until it almost made itself without him. He nods once, throat tight. Yeah. Leonie holds his gaze for a long beat, then stands. Then get up, she says. We're late. Armand rises, brushing dust from his knee, and the moment passes like a shadow across sunlight. But it leaves a quiet echo behind. Not pain. Perspective. 2 years earlier, Armand's name was everywhere for the wrong reasons. Headlines. Clips. Opinions. People argued about his morality like it was a sports game. Some called him a liar. Some called him a victim. Some called Leonie a saint. Some called her something uglier. It didn't matter. Because while the internet moved on to the next outrage, Armand stayed in the same small apartment learning how to warm bottles and calm fevers and hold a baby through a night that refused to end. He lost Oram. He lost partnerships. He lost prestige. He lost the certainty that his life could be managed like a ledger. And in the months that followed, something strange happened. He stopped craving the applause he used to need. He stopped building a life meant to be watched. He started building one meant to be lived. He sold the penthouse. Quietly. No dramatic announcement. The echoing rooms were a museum anyway, beautiful and empty. He bought a smaller place in a neighborhood where kids' chalk drawings lined the sidewalk and neighbors said hello without knowing his net worth. The first time he walked to the corner store in sweatpants and bought diapers himself, no one cared. It should have humiliated him. Instead, it freed him. Now, Armand buckles Remy into his car seat while Remy sings a nonsense song at full volume. Silas keeps trying to escape, wriggling like a fish. Leonie leans against the car, arms folded, watching Armand wrestle with straps and tiny limbs. You've got it, she says. Armand grunts. He's slippery on purpose. Silas giggles like he's been caught committing a crime and enjoys it. Armand finally clicks the buckle shut. Silas pouts for exactly 1 second, then points at the steering wheel. Drive, he commands. Armand shuts the door gently and turns to Leonie. For a moment, the world is quiet. Wind rustles leaves above them. Somewhere, a dog barks. A neighbor's lawnmower hums. Leonie looks peaceful. Not because life is easy. Because it's real. Armand reaches for her hand. Not dramatic. Not urgent. Just a habit now. Leonie lets him take it. Her fingers curl into his with familiarity that still surprises him sometimes. He exhales slowly. I never said thank you, he murmurs. Leonie's eyebrow lifts. For what? For not disappearing, Armand says, voice low. For letting me earn my way back into their lives. Leonie's gaze shifts toward the car window where the twins' faces press against the glass, cheeks squished, giggling at each other like conspirators. I didn't do it for you, she says, echoing an old line from the beginning. Armand nods. I know. Leonie's grip tightens slightly. I did it because I didn't want them growing up thinking men always leave, she says quietly. Armand swallows. The words hit him in a place he doesn't have armor for. Leonie continues, softer now, and because people can change. Sometimes. Armand looks at her, heart pounding in the calm. Sometimes, he repeats. Leonie's mouth twitches, almost a smile. Don't push it. Armand laughs softly. Okay. They stand there a moment longer, hands linked, watching sunlight flicker through leaves. And Armand realizes something with sudden clarity. This is success. Not the kind that shines. The kind that holds. At preschool, Remy runs toward the door without looking back. Silas turns around halfway, checks that Armand is still there, then sprints after his brother. Armand watches them go, chest tight with gratitude so sharp it almost hurts. Leonie stands beside him, arms folded, eyes tracking the boys. They're brave, she says. Armand nods. They're yours. Leonie glances at him. They're ours, she corrects. Armand's throat tightens. He turns to her as if to say something big, something that might sound like a proposal. But he stops. Because he's learned that big moments don't need to be performed. They need to be true. So instead, he says the honest thing. I'm glad you didn't let me keep running, Armand murmurs. Leonie's eyes soften again, just briefly. You stopped on your own, she replies. Eventually. Armand exhales a laugh. Yeah, he admits. Eventually. They walk back to the car in quiet companionship, their footsteps matching on the pavement. No cameras. No headlines. No applause. Just two adults carrying a life they built one exhausted night at a time. That evening, after the boys are asleep, Remy sprawled, Silas curled tight, Armand stands in the doorway of their room, watching their chests rise and fall. Leonie appears behind him, silent. Armand reaches back without looking. His hand finds hers. They stand there together, listening to the soft hush of a home that feels lived in. Armand's voice is barely above a whisper. Do you ever think about that night? He asks. Leonie's fingers tighten around his. Sometimes, she says. Armand swallows. If you hadn't walked into that restaurant. Leonie's voice cuts through gently. I didn't plan it, she says. But maybe we needed it. Armand nods slowly, staring at the sleeping boys. He thinks of how fragile everything still is, how quickly stability can crack. A fever. A layoff. A mistake. A moment of weakness. Nothing is guaranteed. Not love. Not trust. Not even tomorrow. He turns his head slightly toward Leonie. Do you think it lasts? He asks quietly. Leonie's answer is honest in the way only she can be. I think we keep choosing it, she says. That's all anyone gets. Armand feels the weight of that settle in him, not fear, not sadness. Acceptance. Peace. He squeezes her hand once. And in the quiet, he understands the final lesson the world never taught him. Success isn't the moment you kneel with a ring while strangers watch. Success is waking up every day and being the kind of person your children run toward. And even then, nothing is guaranteed. So if you're watching this and you've been delaying the apology, the call, the choice, don't wait until life embarrasses you into honesty. Because stability isn't a trophy. It's a decision you make again tomorrow.